What time was this evidence checked out? At 11:48 that night, Camille Reed sat beneath a cold white light inside an interview room at the Westbridge Police Department, studying the clear plastic evidence bag Officer Daniel Mercer had placed on the metal table between them. Inside the bag were several tightly banded stacks of cash. A faded barcode crossed the lower corner, and old dust clung to the seam beneath the newer evidence label. Mercer stood across from Camille with both palms resting on the table, wearing the expression of a man who believed the room already belonged to him. Sergeant Luke Barrett remained beside the closed door. Behind the one-way glass, Chief Elaine Porter watched without speaking. Camille wore a dark green blazer, a cream blouse, and black slacks. Her hands were free, but her telephone, tablet, car keys, and dashboard camera memory card had been taken. A typed statement waited beside the money. It claimed the cash had been discovered in her trunk during a lawful vehicle inventory and asked her to acknowledge ownership. Camille read the first paragraph, then looked again at the barcode. "What time was this evidence checked out?" she repeated. Mercer gave a short, impatient breath. "It was not checked out. It was recovered from your vehicle less than an hour ago." Camille's eyes moved to the final 4 digits printed beneath the barcode. She had seen them before, not in person, but inside a public property log she had studied while reviewing cash seizures connected to Westbridge traffic stops. The bag did not look new. The seal line had yellowed. One corner carried a faint blue mark from an older evidence sticker that had been removed. Mercer pushed the statement closer. "Sign it, and we can begin discussing what happens next." Camille did not touch the pen. 97 minutes earlier, she had left the Westbridge Civic Center carrying public records, complaint summaries, and a data analysis showing that black drivers were searched far more often than other motorists traveling the same roads. Now the department wanted the story to begin with money in her trunk. They wanted the traffic stop, the working taillights, the request to search her car, and the missing camera audio to disappear behind one official sentence. Barrett leaned toward the table. "You were found with department property. Refusing to explain it will not help you." Camille looked at him. "Your officer says he discovered this bag tonight. I am asking when it left your evidence room." Mercer's jaw tightened. "You are not conducting this interview." "No," Camille said quietly. "I am checking whether your timeline can survive it." Behind the glass, Porter shifted closer to the speaker. Mercer pulled the pen cap free and placed the pen directly in front of Camille. "Last opportunity. Sign the statement." The room became silent except for the ventilation system and the faint clicking of a wall clock. Camille thought about the dashboard camera that had uploaded each minute before officers removed its memory card. She thought about the emergency data package scheduled to transmit when she missed her 11:30 safety confirmation. She thought about the image of Mercer stepping into the blind area beside her trunk and the barcode photograph already stored beyond the department's reach. She raised her eyes to his. 7 words. Nothing more. "The evidence is already with federal investigators." Mercer's expression changed before he could hide it. Barrett turned toward the door. Behind the glass, Porter reached for the desk telephone. At the intake station outside, another line began ringing. Officer Hannah Price answered and listened as a federal civil rights investigator identified himself. Then she looked toward the evidence room computer, where a preservation request had just appeared. His first question was simple. Why had the bag on Camille's table been removed from police storage nearly 3 hours before her traffic stop? 97 minutes earlier, Camille Reed stepped out of the Westbridge Civic Center at 10:11 in the evening with a tablet beneath one arm and a slim folder of public records secured inside her shoulder bag. The community meeting had lasted nearly 3 hours, and the folding chairs behind her were still being stacked as residents gathered in small groups beneath the lobby lights. Camille wore the same dark green blazer, cream blouse, and black slacks she would later wear inside the police interview room. She had spent the evening presenting an analysis built from traffic citations, vehicle search records, civil complaints, and public property logs obtained through lawful requests. The numbers showed a pattern the department had repeatedly called coincidence. Black drivers traveling through Westbridge were asked to consent to vehicle searches far more often than other motorists stopped on the same roads for similar reasons. Cash seizures appeared in cases where no criminal charge followed. Body camera recordings developed unexplained gaps. Several reports became more serious after drivers refused searches or requested supervisors. Camille did not accuse any individual officer during the meeting. She explained the data, identified unanswered questions, and asked the city council to require an independent review. Near the back wall, Officer Daniel Mercer had listened with his arms folded across his Navy uniform. He had arrived without being assigned to the meeting and remained after 2 of his own traffic reports appeared in Camille's presentation. Sergeant Luke Barrett stood several feet away, speaking quietly with Chief Elaine Porter whenever Camille mentioned altered timestamps or missing camera audio. Camille noticed them, but she did not change her tone. Truth did not become stronger when shouted. It became stronger when every number could survive examination. Before leaving, Camille met briefly with attorney Rachel Kim, legal counsel for the Community Accountability Coalition. Rachel confirmed that Camille's dashboard camera was still linked to a secure automatic upload service. Every new recording would be copied beyond the vehicle as it was created. Camille's telephone was also programmed to send an emergency data package if she failed to complete a safety confirmation by 11:30. The package would include her recent location history, uploaded video, audio, and photographs taken during the evening. "You should not need this much protection to drive home from a public meeting," Rachel said. Camille placed the tablet inside her bag. "I should not. That does not mean I will pretend the risk is not there." Outside, the air had cooled, and the parking lot pavement reflected the yellow Civic Center lights. Camille walked to her gray sedan, checked the rear seats, and started the engine. The dashboard camera activated automatically. A small indicator confirmed that the secure connection was working. She photographed the time, her parking location, and the folder containing complaint summaries before placing the documents inside a locked case beneath the passenger seat. Her route home would take her past a gas station, 2 shopping centers, and the western edge of the police district. At 10:14, Mercer exited the building through a side door and watched Camille's sedan leave the lot. Barrett joined him near the patrol cars. "She is building a career out of making us look corrupt," Mercer said. Barrett glanced toward the disappearing taillights. "Then do not give her anything else to use." Mercer said nothing. At 10:17, he entered the evidence room before beginning his patrol. At 10:22, his body camera showed him walking toward his cruiser with his jacket fastened despite the mild weather. Camille was already 1 mile away, driving within the speed limit. Unaware that the officer she had questioned with public data had decided to turn her journey home into a private answer. Daniel Mercer found Camille's gray sedan less than 4 minutes after leaving the police station. He followed her west along Harrison Avenue, remaining several car lengths behind while she passed a grocery store, a closed bank, and a row of small businesses preparing to turn off their lights for the night. Camille maintained the posted speed limit and used her turn signal before every lane change. Her dashboard camera recorded the road ahead, the glow of both taillights in reflective storefront windows, and the patrol car that continued matching her route. She noticed Mercer after the second intersection. The same officer who had watched her presentation was now following her home. Camille did not accelerate. She did not change direction. She kept both hands on the steering wheel and allowed the camera to preserve what memory alone might later be forced to defend. At 10:28, Mercer activated his emergency lights. Camille immediately signaled and turned into a well-lit gas station where security cameras covered the pumps, storefront, and entrance from several angles. She parked near the air machine, switched on the interior light, lowered her window several inches, and placed her hands high on the steering wheel. The camera above the station entrance captured the rear of her car as she stopped. Both taillights were working. Mercer remained inside his cruiser for nearly a minute before approaching. On his patrol computer, he entered defective left taillight as the reason for the stop. He had not inspected the light. He had not seen it fail. The reason existed only because he needed one. "Driver's license and registration," he said when he reached the window. Camille looked toward him without moving her hands. "Good evening, officer. Before I reach for anything, may I ask why I was stopped?" "Your left taillight is out." Camille glanced toward the gas station window, where the red light from her vehicle reflected clearly in the glass. "Both lights were functioning when I entered this lot." Mercer's expression hardened. "Are you going to argue, or are you going to provide your documents?" "My license is inside my wallet in the center console. My registration and insurance card are in the glove compartment. May I retrieve them?" Mercer gave permission. Camille announced each movement before making it, then handed him the documents through the narrow opening. He examined her license longer than necessary. You live on the north side. Why were you at the Civic Center tonight? I attended a public meeting. About the police department? Yes. Mercer looked toward the locked case beneath the passenger seat. What are you carrying? Public records and personal work materials. Any cash in the vehicle? No. Any controlled substances? No. Then you will not object if I search the car. Camille kept her voice even. I do not consent to a search. Mercer leaned closer. People who have nothing to hide usually cooperate. A legal boundary is not. Suspicious behavior. The sentence settled between them. Mercer stepped back and opened his radio channel. He described Camille as argumentative, evasive, and connected to an ongoing concern involving possible financial misconduct. None of those claims had existed when he entered the taillight violation. Camille looked at the clock. 10:33. Her safety confirmation was still nearly an hour away, but the dashboard camera was already uploading every second. Mercer returned to his cruiser and called Sergeant Luke Barrett directly rather than requesting a routine records check through dispatch. While he spoke, Camille photographed the illuminated reflection of both taillights using her telephone and sent the image to the secure folder linked to Rachel Kim. The gas station camera continued recording. A customer walked behind the sedan and briefly glanced at the working lights. Mercer watched from his cruiser, searching for a reason to make the stop larger. The broken light had never been broken. The only thing failing in that parking lot was the story he had chosen before turning on his emergency lights. Sergeant Luke Barrett arrived at the gas station at 10:38, parking behind Mercer's cruiser without first speaking to Camille or reviewing the patrol camera. Mercer met him near the rear bumper and delivered a version of events that had already grown beyond the original taillight claim. He described Camille as uncooperative, unusually protective of the vehicle, and possibly transporting cash connected to fraudulent activity. Barrett listened with his arms folded, then looked through the windshield at the black woman sitting beneath the interior light with both hands visible. Did she consent to a search? He asked. No. Any warrants? None. Any visible contraband? Not yet. The final two words exposed the direction of the investigation. Camille lowered the window another inch. Sergeant, the stated reason for this stop was a defective taillight. Both taillights are operating, and the gas station cameras have recorded them. Barrett walked toward her window. Officer Mercer believes the vehicle may require further inspection. Belief is not legal authority to search. Your refusal is delaying the stop. My refusal is an exercise of a lawful right. Barrett glanced at the locked document case beneath the passenger seat, then told Mercer the sedan would be towed for an administrative safety inspection. Camille looked at the fuel gauge, the dashboard warning panel, and the functioning lights. The vehicle is operational. What safety condition requires a tow? Barrett did not identify one. He simply instructed her to step out so the vehicle could be inventoried before removal. Camille complied without argument, taking her shoulder bag, but leaving the locked case where the dashboard camera could continue recording. She stood near the storefront beneath a security camera while Mercer began photographing the passenger compartment. His body camera faced forward as he checked the front seats and center console. When he reached the trunk, he shifted his position until the raised lid blocked the camera's direct view. Barrett remained near Camille, asking repeated questions about the civic meeting and the records she carried. She answered only what was necessary. Across the lot, the gas station's wide-angle camera captured something Mercer believed no official camera could see. His right hand moved beneath his fastened patrol jacket. A small clear bag appeared against his palm. He leaned into the trunk, placed it between two boxes of printed reports, then stepped backward and called Barrett over. Sergeant, I found something. Mercer lifted the bag beneath the parking lights. Several stacks of cash were visible inside, along with a faded Westbridge evidence barcode. This is department property, Barrett said. Camille did not react with surprise. She studied the bag from several feet away. Dust had settled beneath the seal, and a pale blue stain marked one corner where an older label appeared to have been removed. The last 4 digits of the barcode matched a closed property case she had reviewed while preparing her analysis. That case was more than 6 months old. Where exactly was it located? Camille asked. Mercer pointed toward the center of the trunk. Hidden between your files. Photograph the position before moving anything. Mercer had already lifted it. The discovery is on camera. Camille looked at the body camera mounted on his chest. Its lens had faced the trunk lid during the critical seconds. Your camera could not see inside the trunk from where you were standing. Barrett ordered her to stop interfering. Camille said nothing more. She memorized the time, 10:44, the barcode digits, the old dust, and the location of the gas station camera above pump 4. Mercer placed the bag into a second evidence container and announced that Camille was being detained for possession of property connected to an earlier police case. The false taillight had opened the stop. The planted money was now being used to rewrite why the stop had begun. The patrol vehicles reached Westbridge Police Department at 10:56, and Camille was escorted through the rear entrance while Mercer carried the cash-filled evidence bag in a separate container. Her gray sedan remained at the gas station awaiting a tow that had never been justified by a mechanical problem. At the intake desk, Officer Hannah Price recorded Camille's property while Sergeant Luke Barrett gave Chief Elaine Porter a private summary before Camille was permitted to speak. Mercer described the stop as an investigation into suspicious financial activity that had led to the discovery of department property hidden among Camille's records. He did not mention the functioning taillights, her refusal to consent to a search, or the moment his body blocked the camera's view of the trunk. Porter entered the processing area wearing a dark suit beneath her command jacket. She recognized Camille from the civic meeting and understood that an arrest involving stolen police evidence could discredit the data presented earlier that evening. Place her in interview room 2, Porter said. Secure every device she brought with her. Camille looked toward Hannah. Please document that my telephone contains an automatic safety confirmation scheduled for 11:30. Do not power it off, remove the dashboard camera memory card, or alter the evidence bag before its barcode is verified. Mercer placed her telephone, tablet, and camera card into separate property envelopes. She is trying to control the investigation, he said. I am asking you to preserve it, Camille replied. At 11:04, Mercer opened the incident report and changed the reason for the stop from defective taillight to suspected transportation of undocumented cash. Barrett added that Camille's refusal to allow a search had created concern for officer safety and vehicle security. 12 minutes later, the report changed again. The new version claimed Mercer had recognized a possible connection between Camille's vehicle and missing department property before initiating the stop. Hannah watched the edits appear on her terminal. The first version remained visible inside the audit history, but the active report now made the planted money seem like the reason for the stop rather than the result of it. Camille was seated beneath the white interview room light while Mercer placed the evidence bag on the table. Her telephone had been powered off. Her tablet was locked inside a cabinet. The dashboard camera memory card had been removed, even though the recording had already uploaded beyond the department's reach. Porter observed through the one-way glass as Barrett instructed Mercer to finish the report before the station's automatic camera transfer began at midnight. Once the video is uploaded, the language needs to match what officers observed, Porter said. Mercer understood what she meant. At 11:22, he added that Camille had made repeated movements toward the passenger floor, although his body camera showed her hands remained visible. Barrett approved the revision. At 11:30, Camille missed the safety confirmation. Her secure system automatically transmitted the uploaded dashboard video, gas station coordinates, recent photographs, and audio from the stop to attorney Rachel Kim. Camille could not see the transmission. She only saw Mercer enter the interview room carrying a typed statement that claimed the cash belonged to her. He placed a pen beside it and told her cooperation could make the situation easier. Camille looked at the old dust beneath the seal, the faded blue mark, and the barcode from a case closed months earlier. The department believed it had taken her telephone, her camera, her records, and her ability to prove what happened. What it had actually taken was the final action needed to send the proof somewhere it could no longer reach. At 11:34, Officer Hannah Price carried the cash-filled evidence bag from the interview room to the intake scanner and entered the final 4 digits of its barcode. The system did not create a new property record. It opened an old one. The bag belonged to a closed theft case from 6 months earlier, and the cash inside had been scheduled for transfer to the city finance office after the court authorized its release. Hannah checked the access history. At 8:43 that evening, nearly 90 minutes before Camille left the Civic Center, Daniel Mercer had used his identification card to remove the bag from the evidence room under the category of administrative review. No supervisor approval appeared beside the entry. No return time had been recorded. Hannah looked through the glass toward the interview room, where Mercer continued pressing Camille to sign the statement claiming ownership of the money. She scanned the barcode again, hoping the first result had been a system error. The same closed case returned. Hannah opened the evidence room hallway camera archive and selected the recording from 8:43. Mercer appeared at the secured door with nothing in his hands. He entered alone. Less than 3 minutes later, he emerged with his patrol jacket fastened across the front despite the mild weather. The lower edge of a clear plastic bag was visible beneath the fabric for only a second before he turned away from the camera. Hannah copied the recording into a protected folder and attached the access log, barcode result, and original taillight report. She also saved the second report alleging illegal cash transport and the third version claiming Mercer had suspected stolen department property before initiating the stop. Each revision carried his identification number. Sergeant Luke Barrett noticed the activity and approached the intake desk. "Why are you reviewing?" "Evidence room video," he asked. The bag was removed from storage before the traffic stop. Barrett glanced at the barcode screen. Mercer may have taken it for an authorized comparison. There is no authorization listed. Then the entry was incomplete. The current report says he discovered the bag in Camille's trunk. It does not say he handled it earlier tonight. Barrett lowered his voice. "This case has not been assigned to you. Close the video and finish the property intake." Hannah looked toward Chief Elaine Porter behind the one-way glass. Porter was watching Mercer place the pen in front of Camille again. No one appeared interested in asking why a supposedly stolen evidence bag had left police storage hours before it was allegedly found. Hannah locked the audit history so no earlier version could be removed without generating an alert. She preserved the hallway recording, the evidence room entry log, and the first incident report inside a folder requiring 2 administrators to change. Barrett reached for the keyboard. "Unlock that file." "Not until the discrepancy is documented." "That is a direct order." Hannah removed her hands from the keyboard but did not release the protection. She opened Camille's property inventory and found a business card clipped inside the public record folder. Attorney Rachel Kim, Community Accountability Coalition. Camille had written one sentence across the back. "Contact if safety confirmation is missed." Hannah checked the station clock. 11:41. She used a recorded desk line and called the number. Rachel answered on the second ring, already reviewing the emergency package that had arrived 11 minutes earlier. Hannah identified herself and said only what the preserved records could prove. The evidence bag on Camille's table belonged to an older case. Mercer had removed it at 8:43. The hallway camera recorded him leaving with something concealed beneath his jacket. The traffic stop report had been rewritten 3 times. Rachel asked Hannah to preserve everything and remain on the line while she contacted Marcus Bell, a federal civil rights investigator who had been reviewing Westbridge complaints. Barrett ordered Hannah to hang up. She kept the receiver against her ear. Inside the interview room, Camille watched Mercer point once more toward the false confession. The department believed she was alone. Beyond its walls, the first copy of the truth had already been opened. At 11:43, Attorney Rachel Kim forwarded Camille's emergency data package to Marcus Bell, a federal civil rights investigator already reviewing complaints against the Westbridge Police Department. The package contained the dashboard recording of both taillights working, Mercer's request to search the vehicle, Camille's refusal, the time and location of the stop, and a photograph of the evidence barcode taken before her telephone was powered off. Hannah remained on the recorded station line while Rachel explained that the cash bag had been removed from police storage before Camille ever left the Civic Center. Marcus asked Hannah to verify the barcode without opening the bag, preserve every report version, and identify the officers who had accessed the evidence room that evening. Hannah read the records exactly as they appeared. Daniel Mercer had entered at 8:43. He had left less than 3 minutes later. No supervisor approval accompanied the removal. Sergeant Luke Barrett stood beside her desk, listening as the timeline moved beyond his control. "This is an internal evidence matter," he said. Marcus answered through Rachel's conference line. It became a federal civil rights matter when the same evidence appeared inside a vehicle after a stop unsupported by the available recordings. Chief Elaine Porter left the observation area and approached the intake desk. She ordered Hannah to end the call and release the protected audit folder. Hannah refused to alter the preservation status. Porter then directed Barrett to move the evidence bag into secured storage before any outside agency arrived. Marcus heard the command. "Do not move the bag," he said. "Its current location and condition must be documented." Inside interview room 2, Mercer continued speaking as though the station outside had not changed. He told Camille that signing the statement would allow the department to consider leniency. Camille read the sentence claiming the money belonged to her, then studied the old seam, faded blue mark, and final 4 digits beneath the barcode. "What time was this evidence checked out?" she asked. Mercer leaned back. "It was not checked out. It was recovered from your trunk." Camille knew that answer would become the point where his story broke. She had seen the same barcode in a public property log months earlier. She also knew her automatic upload had been delivered at 11:30, even though no one inside the room had told her. The department had disabled her telephone, but it had done so after the transmission. Mercer pushed the pen closer. "Sign the statement." Camille looked through the one-way glass, unable to see Porter but aware that someone was standing behind it. "You changed the reason for the stop 3 times, she said. "You removed my camera card after the recording had already uploaded. Now you are asking me to claim property that belongs to one of your closed cases." Mercer's expression remained firm, but his eyes shifted toward the glass. "You do not know what belongs to this department." Camille met his gaze. The room went still. 7 words. Calmly spoken. Precisely chosen. "The evidence is already with federal investigators." Mercer stopped moving. Behind the glass, Porter reached for the telephone. Barrett turned toward the intake desk just as the main line began ringing. Hannah answered and placed the call on speaker. Marcus identified himself, provided his agency contact information, and announced that a formal preservation request was being transmitted to the city attorney and the department's records custodian. He asked why the evidence bag on Camille's table had been removed from storage nearly 3 hours before the traffic stop. No one answered. Rachel then confirmed that the gas station video showed Mercer entering the camera blind spot with something beneath his jacket and leaving it inside Camille's trunk. The body camera gap, the altered reports, the old barcode, and the evidence room access log now pointed in the same direction. Camille had not changed the investigation with 7 words. She had only revealed that the department was no longer the only place where the truth existed. At 11:50, Marcus Bell instructed Westbridge Police Department to preserve every recording, report version, evidence room entry, dispatch log, and property record connected to Camille's detention. He did not claim authority over the department's daily operations. Instead, the formal request was delivered to the city attorney, the municipal records custodian, and an independent investigator assigned to civil rights complaints. Within minutes, the city technology administrator placed the relevant files into read-only status so no one inside the station could revise or delete them without creating a permanent alert. Chief Elaine Porter objected that an outside investigation was being built on the word of a detained woman. Marcus answered that it was being built on timestamps created by Porter's own systems. Officer Hannah Price photographed the cash bag where it rested on the interview table, documented the faded seal and old barcode, and refused to move it until an independent evidence custodian arrived. Daniel Mercer stood several feet away, no longer asking Camille to sign the statement. Sergeant Luke Barrett attempted to explain the evidence room access as an undocumented administrative review, but the hallway recording showed Mercer entering empty-handed and leaving with something concealed beneath his jacket. At 12:08, the independent investigator entered the station with the city records custodian and began separating the evidence into clear layers. The first layer was the traffic stop. Gas station cameras showed both taillights operating before, during, and after Camille pulled into the parking lot. Her dashboard recording showed that she drove within the speed limit, signaled properly, and kept her hands visible. The second layer was the search. Mercer asked for consent, Camille refused, and no new mechanical problem or immediate safety threat appeared on camera before the vehicle was ordered towed. The third layer was the planted bag. The wide-angle camera above pump 4 showed Mercer move behind the raised trunk lid, remove a small object from beneath his jacket, and place it between Camille's boxes. His body camera failed to show the inside of the trunk during those same seconds. The fourth layer was the barcode. The bag belonged to a closed case from 6 months earlier and had been removed from police storage at 8:43 that evening using Mercer's identification card. The fifth layer was the report history. The stated reason for the stop changed from a defective taillight to suspected cash transport, then to possession of stolen department property. Each revision appeared after the earlier explanation became difficult to defend. The final layer extended beyond Camille. Hannah's preserved records showed that Barrett had closed several previous complaints involving motorists who reported sudden searches, missing camera audio, and accusations added after they refused consent. Porter's office had received summaries showing the pattern, but had never ordered an independent review. No one was declared guilty that night. Mercer was suspended and required to surrender his access credentials pending administrative and criminal review. Barrett was removed from supervisory duties and ordered not to contact officers whose reports were being examined. Porter was placed on administrative leave while an outside authority reviewed her decisions. At 12:27, Camille's property was returned, and the false statement was marked and signed. She reviewed each item before leaving the interview room. Her telephone remained powered off, but the evidence had survived because copies existed beyond the station. Mercer watched her close the case containing her tablet and public records. "You planned this," he said. Camille looked at the bag he had tried to make hers. "I planned to protect the truth. You planned everything else." She turned toward Porter and Barrett, then spoke without anger. "You did not frame the wrong woman. You exposed the wrong system." 6 months later, Westbridge Police Department was operating under independent civilian oversight, a new interim chief, and evidence procedures designed to preserve every original action. The investigation had expanded beyond the night Camille Reed was detained. After an administrative hearing, Daniel Mercer was dismissed for initiating an unsupported traffic stop, removing property from police storage, placing that property inside Camille's vehicle, submitting misleading reports, and attempting to obtain a false statement. Luke Barrett lost his supervisory position after investigators found that he had approved changing explanations, ignored contradictory recordings, and closed earlier complaints without meaningful review. Elaine Porter resigned while state and federal authorities continued examining whether command staff had knowingly protected a pattern of unlawful searches and manipulated evidence records. No consequence had been declared inside the interview room. Each one came later through preserved timestamps, independent hearings, witness testimony, and due process. 12 previous traffic cases were reopened. Improperly seized money began returning to drivers and families who had spent years believing the department's version would always matter more than theirs. The evidence room now required 2 authorized employees before property could be removed. Every access created an automatic notification outside the police network. Body camera files uploaded continuously to an independent server. Original reports could be corrected but never erased, and every revision permanently displayed the name, time, and reason for the change. Hannah Price received a formal commendation, though she told the Civilian Review Board that preserving a record should never require unusual courage. Camille continued analyzing public data and teaching community workshops about traffic stops, documentation, and the difference between protecting a legal right and obstructing an officer. She never taught people to memorize the 7 words that had changed her interrogation. Those words had worked because Rachel Kim received the automatic upload, Marcus Bell acted on the evidence, and Hannah refused to unlock the original records. Without those protected copies, the sentence might have sounded like another claim the department felt free to ignore. On a warm afternoon in May, Camille stood outside a neighborhood library after finishing a public records workshop. Across the street, a patrol officer activated emergency lights behind a compact sedan driven by a young black mother. A child's backpack rested in the rear window. The driver pulled into a safe parking space, lowered her window, and placed both hands where they could be seen. Camille watched without approaching. The officer introduced himself, explained that the rear license plate light was not working, and showed the driver where the problem was located. His body camera remained active. He requested her license and registration, returned to his vehicle, and completed the records check. He did not ask why she was in the neighborhood. He did not question how much cash she carried. He did not request permission to search the car. When he returned, he gave her a written warning and the location of a nearby repair shop. The mother thanked him, adjusted her mirror, and continued toward home. She had no automatic evidence upload. No attorney was waiting for a missed safety confirmation. No federal investigator knew her name. She had never heard Camille's 7 words. She did not need them. Camille remained beside the library steps as the sedan disappeared around the corner. 7 words had stopped one lie. Justice began when the system was changed so that no lie was allowed to start.